Dark clouds hang over a medieval horizon, bells toll in the distance. The year is 1347, a time when faith ruled every corner of life, and the shadow of death seemed far away. But then, it came. It began in the ports, ships sailing from the east, carrying traders, spices, and something else, something no one could see, smell, or stop. Within days of docking, sailors were dead. Within weeks, entire neighborhoods fell silent, and within months, the world would never be the same again. History remembers it as the Black Death, a plague so deadly it erased entire towns, wiped out 1/3 of Europe's population, and reshaped human civilization. But 7 centuries later, a haunting question still remains. Was the Black Death really caused by the plague we think it was? Or was it something far more mysterious and far more terrifying? For centuries, we've been told the same story, that the Black Death was caused by Yersinia pestis, a bacterium carried by fleas that lived on rats. It was simple, scientific, and neatly explained, a perfect answer for a terrifying mystery. Yet the deeper historians and scientists look, the more cracks appear in that story, because the Black Death didn't behave like any plague we know today. The disease moved with impossible speed. Entire regions were struck almost overnight, and in towns where rats were scarce, places too cold or too clean for them to thrive, people still died in staggering numbers. If the plague was truly carried by rats, how did it spread so far, so fast? Could something else have been at work? Ancient chronicles describe horrifying scenes, black swellings the size of eggs, fever so high it drove victims to madness, blood coughed from the lungs. Some people fell dead while speaking, others died within a single day of the first symptom. And there's another clue. The Black Death spread even when contact with rats or fleas was unlikely. That's led modern researchers to a disturbing possibility. The disease might not have spread through bites, but through the air. If true, the Black Death wasn't a slow-moving bacterial plague. It was an airborne killer, a pathogen so contagious it leapt from person to person like wildfire. Modern DNA testing on skeletons from medieval graves did find traces of Yersinia pestis, confirming the bacterium's presence. But what they found didn't match the plague strains we know today. This was an older, mutated ancestor, one far more deadly. Some scientists believe this strain wasn't working alone. It may have combined with another pathogen, possibly viral, creating a hybrid disease humanity had never seen before, a disease that vanished just as mysteriously as it appeared. Medieval scribes left haunting descriptions that seemed to support this idea. They wrote of sudden bleeding, lungs filling with blood, and victims dying without the classic bubonic swellings. Others mentioned storms, earthquakes, and a stench in the air before the sickness struck, as if nature itself were infected. To the terrified people of the 14th century, the plague wasn't biological. It was biblical. Many believed it was God's punishment for humanity's sins. Others blamed outsiders, travelers, or even the stars. Entire communities turned against one another, desperate to explain what was happening. Yet buried in those accounts are clues, hints that this disease behaved unlike any known plague. If it truly was Yersinia pestis, how could it have mutated so drastically? And if it wasn't, then what was it? Some historians now believe the Black Death may have been part of a perfect storm, a collision of climate change, famine, and disease that magnified its effects. Before the plague, Europe suffered years of cold weather and poor harvests. People were starving, weak, and vulnerable. Their immune systems were fragile, and in that weakness, something lethal found its chance. Other researchers point to the East, to trade routes stretching from China to Europe. They believe the disease began long before it reached the West, mutating as it traveled, spreading through human contact long before it ever touched a rat. In this version of history, the plague wasn't a passenger on ships. It was the traveler, moving through people, spreading silently, invisibly. Whatever it was, the Black Death didn't just destroy lives, it destroyed a world. Feudal systems collapsed as workers died and lords lost their power. Religion was shaken to its core. People began questioning faith, the church, and even God himself. And out of that darkness, something new was born. The Renaissance, new thinking, new medicine, the idea that disease might have natural causes, that it wasn't divine wrath, but something that could be studied, understood, maybe even controlled. The Black Death, for all its horror, pushed humanity towards science, but then, just as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. By the early 1350s, the death stopped. Cities reopened, the silence lifted. No one could explain why. Did the disease mutate into something harmless? Did immunity slowly build among survivors? Or did it simply burn itself out, using up every life it could before vanishing into history? Even now, no one knows. Modern science continues to dig for answers, studying ancient bones, comparing DNA, and modeling how the plague could have spread so fast. Some researchers believe a few remnants of that ancient strain may still exist in isolated parts of the world. Others are convinced it's gone forever, a mystery buried with its victims beneath medieval soil. But one truth remains: the Black Death changed humanity forever. It taught us how fragile life is, how easily the world we know can fall apart. It forced us to question the unseen, to face the terrifying truth that sometimes, even with all our knowledge, we don't understand the forces that shape us. 700 years later, we still ask the same question. What really happened? Was it truly the plague that history remembers? Or was it something far older, something that waits, silent, in the dark corners of our past? Because maybe the true mystery of the Black Death isn't how it killed so many, it's why it ever stopped. This is Madival Uncovered, where history's darkest secrets are brought back to life.